All right, welcome up, Patrick and John. All right. Oh. We'll start with you, Patrick. If you could interview one athlete, current, former, in the history of sports, who would it be and why?
The first answer is Lou Gehrig, because he is my all-time favorite Yankee. But the guy that got me started in sports, loving sports, was Jim Abbott. When I was 7 years old, the first ever Yankee game I went to was Jim Abbott's no-hitter. And as a 7-year-old kid who has a bleeding disorder, watching a guy with one hand pitch a no-hitter in Yankee Stadium, that just sold me right there. So if I could ever talk to one guy, I'd want to sit down with Jim Abbott.
We're going to go the opposite for you. Your least favorite athlete would be who?
My least favorite? Oh, is this microphone working?
It is sort of working.
All right, I'll try it anyway.
Yeah, we hear you.
My least favorite athlete, I would say, is Jonathan Papelbon from the Red Sox. And the reason I would say that is because the guy, when he saves the game, gets all demonstrative, pumping the fist, yelling at the other team. Personally, I don't go for that. I don't go for that when it comes to one of my Yankees doing it, whether it's Joba Chamberlain. To me, you should handle yourself with class. When you strike out a guy to end the game, you go and shake the catcher's hand with respect. There's nothing that bothers me more in sports when there's just excessive and just demonstrative emotion that's just completely unnecessary. And to me, Papelbon epitomizes that.
All right, John, I want you to give me 30 seconds or so on why you think the NFL owners have an upper hand. And Patrick, you then give me 30 seconds on why you think the players should have the upper hand in the negotiations for a labor lockout.
I'll take it first. I think the owners have an upper hand because at the end of the day, these players have to play football for their livelihood. You know, like the debate has been said time and time again, it's billionaires versus millionaires. These NFL owners can wait as long as possible, I believe. They're going to lose money, but at the end of the day, these players need to get back to work playing football. That is their livelihood. So to me, the owners have all the advantage. They have all the leverage in this negotiating situation. All of it, all whatsoever.
But money aside, health care, health insurance, the more we learn about concussions and injuries that these players can sustain, the bigger the owners can't deny that this is a demanding physical sport. And we've seen test results that show the concussions and what that can cause later in life. There's tests that are building cases for more support for taking care of these players later in the career. Yes, some of them make a lot of money, but the average lifespan in the NFL is only about, 4.5 years? That's not enough to sustain you for life, especially with severe physical disabilities that forthcome.
All right, for both you guys, least favorite sport to follow and why?
My least favorite sport to follow is probably tennis, and that's because I'm
of the four majors.
Well, I hate to say it, but it's hockey. I mean, I'm just not a hockey guy. I get into playoff hockey because I get into storylines, and by the time you get to the playoffs, you have some storylines to follow, but I just can't get into hockey.
I got to go the same way. I mean, the games are impossible to find on television. You know, I can't get that rooting interest that I get from baseball watching it every day, football watching it every day, and even to a lesser extent the NBA, just because of the star power that's in that league. Hockey really has, to me, 2 or 3 stars. You got Crosby, you got Ovechkin from the Capitals, and then you got, you know, obviously being here in New York, you got Lundqvist. But I mean, aside from that, the hockey star doesn't get me, a casual hockey fan, into the hockey. Just doesn't.
All right, guys, thank you. John, you're up first for your 2 minutes. Go.
All right, it's not a popular opinion. I've been saying it for a while, and I'm going to stick to it. Despite the fact that they're saying there's a 100% chance the Mets are not trading Jose Reyes, I still believe they got to keep that option on the table. Yes, he's having a phenomenal season, but he is batting 60 points higher than his career average. Yes, he is a phenomenal player, but he is injury prone, and in his 8 full seasons, the Mets have made the playoffs once. And at the end of 2007, during that horrible collapse, he got 32 at-bats in the last 7 games. In those, he got 3 hits. I'm not saying that he is not a rare talent, he absolutely is. But at the end of this season, he's going to demand Carl Crawford-type money, and somebody is going to give it to him. If he really wanted to stay a Met, as he says, he would have already signed a contract. Money comes first, and I don't blame him for that. I'm just saying the Mets need to be as smart about their business as Jose Reyes is being about his. And to that point, when Sandy Alderson was on with Joe and Evan just after the K-Rod trade, he said, my job is to broker the immediate needs of this team with the long-term needs of this team. Well, Sandy, good news. There are no immediate needs for this team. They are out of the hunt. This year is done. However, The two teams ahead of you are going to be there for a while. Philly's not going anywhere, and Atlanta's young and looking to add. They're not going anywhere. That means we need to build around our core. And by the core, it's no longer Beltran, Wright, and Reyes. Now it's Dylan G. and Jonathan Neese and Ike Davis and Evan Turner and even Daniel Murphy. This is the new core you have to build around. This is the future of the New York Mets. And if you let Jose Reyes go to the end of the season and get taken up by another team, it'll be the biggest blow to this fan base since the 2007 collapse, and I don't think they can handle it. You need to check out the market for Jose Reyes. He's the hottest chip today. Thank you.
So you would deal Jose Reyes, but you say Justin Turner, you would build this team around Justin Turner. How long of a process? You're charging major money to go out to Citi Field to watch. The Yankees are spending $200 million across the city. Why am I going to Citi Field to watch this team rebuild, which is going to take 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, but people aren't going to watch them now with these guys on the team because they're not winning. Winning solves all problems. I'm not saying Justin Turner himself solves the problem, but unlike the NFL, unlike the NBA, you don't choose who gets up to bat. You don't necessarily get to put your best pitcher on the mound in the most crucial point of the game. You have to build it around a team. They have had this guy on the team going on 9 seasons. They're going to have made the playoffs once. Same with David Wright, same with Carlos Beltran. They gave it a shot. It's time to look around, look at young prospects, see if you can move them for pieces to add to what you've got going on. This young team is exciting, and I just think the future lies in them, not in Jose Reyes. That ship has sailed.
If you're the Yankees and you're Brian Cashman or someone higher up making a decision, and all of a sudden, for some reason, Jose Reyes really is available, even though you know have Derek Jeter signed, would you sign Jose Reyes if you're the Yankees?
Yes, because he is the better of the two shortstops.
Let's turn to the NFL and the lockout. How do you think this will be resolved in the next couple of days, or will it be resolved in the next couple of days?
Yeah, I think it will. I forget who said it before, but I agree with whomever made the point. Ultimately, when it comes down to it as fans, we're not going to be greatly affected. They're going to get back to playing, and I think all of these issues, they've come closer and closer and closer. There's a lot of jargon. I heard one analyst say about the NBA and NFL, I didn't realize it needed a legal degree to follow sports anymore. It's gotten very, very convoluted, but I think at the end of the day, there's too much money at stake. They're going to solve the problems. We're going to have a full season. I do think eventually we're going to move to an 18-game season. It's not going to happen now. We'll revisit that. This contract's supposed to last, I think, something like 10 years, and that'll come up then.
Okay. All right, let's move on and hear from John. John, your 2 minutes. You're on the clock.
Back here, Jastremski with you on the fan, 877-337-6666. We'll get back to the baseball a little bit later on, but it's time to turn our attention here to the National Football League. And I'm sick and tired of hearing about lawsuits, lockouts, settlements, what have you. Sooner or later, this deal is going to get done. And when it does get done, you are going to have yourself a wild period of free agency and an imperative period of free agency, especially for one of the New York teams, a team that has its sights set on the Lombardi Trophy. That would be the New York Jets. The Jets, the last 2 years, tremendous seasons, getting to the AFC title game. But in both of those seasons, horrific losses, blowing the halftime lead to the Indianapolis Colts, not showing up at all in the first half against the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's important that the Jets execute and deliver here in free agency. And when you look at the offensive side of the football, the Jets need to prioritize re-signing Santonio Holmes. Had so many big game-winning catches for the Jets last year. The game against the Texans, the game against the Lions, the game against the Browns. The guy's a Super Bowl MVP. The guy is a security blanket for Mark Sanchez. He is a must to be on the Jets in 2011 if they want to get to the Super Bowl. Now, you look at Braylon Edwards. I would keep Braylon Edwards if I'm the New York Jets at my price. If Braylon Edwards wants to go get the big money, I would say, thank you very much, Braylon. I'll go in. I'm bringing a veteran receiver to play alongside Santonio Holmes. Now, on the defensive side of the football, the Jets have a decision to make with Antonio Cromartie, who is asking for all this money from the New York Jets. Well, Antonio, I would tell you and your 7 children, see you later. We'll go out and get an upgrade, whether it's a Jonathan Joseph from the Cincinnati Bengals or an Ike Taylor from the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think if the Jets can execute this in the offseason, they will be looking at a Super Bowl contending team. 877-337-6666. Jastremski with you. We'll take your phone calls when we come back right after this.
All right, you gave us a couple minutes on the Jets. Give us 30 seconds on how you think the Giants should handle the next couple of weeks.
Well, the Giants have also a very equally imperative decision to make in free agency. Much like the Jets, where they have two great wide receivers, the Giants got to prioritize re-signing Ahmad Bradshaw. The guy's the explosive running back. The guy is the guy who had over 1,200 yards last year. Brandon Jacobs is not the future running back. That's where they got to address things offensively. And on the defensive side of the football, they got to get better at the linebacking position. They were way too slow at linebacker last year. They can bring in guys, whether it's a Barrett Rudd maybe from Tampa Bay or a Paul Posluszny from Buffalo. I think both of those guys would help the Giants a lot better to getting back to the postseason.
All right, Yankees, if Gardner continues to do what he's doing at the top of the lineup, how do you handle Derek Jeter?
Well, Mark, it's a tough call because with Derek Jeter, it's going to be difficult telling that man with those 3,000 hits and all that pride that you're hitting 8th or 9th in the lineup. And I wouldn't want to be the guy who's got to tell Derek Jeter that he's hitting 8th or 9th. That being said, the way Gardner's hitting right now, he needs to be at the top of the order. I think the suggestion that the Yankees should take, I would drop Curtis Granderson in the lineup. I know he's been great in that 2-hole, but right now with A-Rod out of the lineup, you keep Gardner and Jeter 1-2, then you hit Cano 3 to share a 4, Granderson 5 there to drive in the runs. I think that's what the approach Girardi and the Yankees should take here.
All right, one Met question for you. Would you blush or be bashful about trading Beltran to, say, the Philadelphia Phillies?
No, you get the best possible offer you can possibly get. If the Phillies are going to offer you Dominic Brown, one of their stud outfield prospects, I say, Dominic Brown, I'll drive Beltran down to Philly. He's not going to be on this Mets team in 2012. Period. End of story. It's not happening. Go out and trade him for the best possible offer you can get to get better in the future.
All right, very good. Thank you very much, Patrick and John.